Hello everyone. This video will talk about something that was very misleading and misunderstood regarding Genshin Impact's mechanics. So does elemental reaction have cooldown? Now if this video helps you, please like, comment, and subscribe. So in general, does elemental reaction have cooldown where most of the other guides and things will tell you that it have about 2-second cooldown in all the other reactions? That is actually not true. Elemental reactions actually have no cooldown. So now if you're gonna look at this demonstration I'll do with Shangling and Bennett. So what I'll do is Shangling's Bear will Gooba will proc Pyro, and Bennett's E will also proc Pyro. So on the electric hypostasis, it should proc overloaded 3 times if it have no cooldown. So let's go ahead and try this. Alright, so E. Notice how overloaded was proc 3 times and there was no cooldown in between. Okay, now let's try this a second time. Alright, notice how the word didn't appear the second time, but the damage was there. So it procs overloaded 3 times. Now, all of you will ask me, well, Umi, I have D-Luke. Why does his E don't proc overload 3 times? Like I'll show you right now. So there, D-Luke's E only procs overloaded twice, where the second one didn't proc. So why is that? Well, that is because elemental reaction have no cooldown, but elemental skills applying elements have cooldown. So for D-Luke, his E doesn't apply Pyro every hit of his E. It have a cooldown, a short cooldown. So in order for you to proc all 3 overloaded on D-Luke's E, you need to use E and then fit a lot of autos in between and then use E again. So you space out the E. So another thing is Mona's Q. So how Mona's Q works is you apply Pyro and then you use Mona's Q, which the initial hit of the Q would have a reaction with the Pyro, and then it'll apply the, what's the thing called? Omen. Omen and the illusionary bubble. It'll apply the bubble, and you need to wait 2 seconds to proc the bubble with another Pyro to get the maximum amount of vaporize damage for Mona's O. Now why do you need to wait 2 seconds? Well, that's because the reaction have no cooldown, but Mona's Q applying Hydro does have a cooldown, and that cooldown is about 2 seconds. So in order for you to do Mona's ult, the nuke Mona Q correctly, you need to wait the 2 seconds. So I'll demonstrate it here. Now you wait about 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you'll get the vaporize damage. Alright, now so we'll do this again without waiting 2 seconds for Mona's Q. And result should be expected is you don't expect the vaporize proc. So let's try it. If you don't wait, then the vaporize doesn't proc because Mona's Q have cooldown to apply Hydro. So when Bennett hit it with another E, the Hydro didn't proc, so therefore you didn't get your vaporize damage. So all skill in the game have a different rate of applying element. Now why are these important? Let's actually talk about elemental reactions itself. Firstly, applying a element is split into 2 types. There's a strong and a weak type. The strong is if you apply the aura and it stays around for about 12 seconds. Weak is if you apply the aura and it stays around for 9 seconds. Now aura and trigger is the same thing, you apply a element. So strong and weak for aura and trigger meant the same thing. In the game, most of the skills apply weak element. So I'll put up a chart somewhere and you could take a look at it. For example, Bennett's E and Kaya's E always apply strong pyro and strong cryo. Now, why is this useful? Well, because for overloaded, a strong aura plus a weak trigger means that the aura would stay for a few seconds afterward. And for a weak aura plus a strong trigger, then the aura goes away. So the example here is Beidou E is a strong electric. Diluc's E is weak pyro. So if you use Beidou's E as the aura and you trigger it with Diluc's E as the trigger, that means that the electro would stay after the overloaded reaction. Now if you reverse that, if you use Diluc's E to apply pyro and you use Beidou's E to apply trigger, then the aura will go away, so they disappear. So you E, and you E. See how the electro stays for a few more seconds? Now if you E first, and then Beidou use E, then the aura will both go away. For overloaded, if you have a strong aura plus a strong trigger, then both the aura goes away. If you have a weak aura plus a weak trigger, then the aura also goes away. Now for electrocharged, a strong aura plus a weak trigger means the aura would stay. And a weak aura plus a strong trigger means the aura will also stay, just for electrocharged. So for example here we have Beidou's E, which is strong electric, and Mona's auto attack, which is weak hydro. I notice how the electro stays for a few seconds. So we apply Mona's auto, and notice how the electric stays. Okay, now we talk about melt and vaporize, which is extra special because of how the elemental reaction for these two work. So because hydro counters pyro, you could tell by how you break for 2e shields. A weak hydro aura would make a strong pyro trigger become a weak pyro trigger. Therefore, if you apply a weak hydro aura and a strong pyro trigger, unlike overloaded, both of them would disappear. So going by this logic, if you apply a weak hydro aura plus a weak pyro trigger, that means the aura will also stay. The hydro aura will also stay for a few seconds. So for the following demonstration, Barbara's autos is weak hydro. Diluc's E is weak pyro. Therefore, if you apply Barbara's auto as the aura and you trigger with Diluc's E, the aura won't disappear. The aura will stay for a few seconds. But Barbara's auto is a weak hydro and Bennett's E is a strong pyro. Therefore, if you apply Barbara's hydro aura and trigger with Bennett's E, that means the aura would disappear. So we'll just show you really quickly. Alright, so weak hydro, weak, and the water stays. Now if you do weak hydro, and if you do this, then the aura will disappear. Now if you do the weak pyro as the aura, and you apply weak hydro's trigger, then they both disappear. Now if you apply strong pyro as the aura, and you apply weak hydro trigger, it'll still disappear. Now for melt. Melt is similar to vaporize, because pyro counters cryo. If you apply any type of cryo aura, a pyro trigger will always get rid of the aura. However, if you reverse it, if you use pyro as the aura and you use cryo as a trigger, then the aura would stay. Therefore, if you use Diluc E, which is weak pyro, or Bennett E, which is strong pyro, if you use Ganyu's charge attack, which is weak cryo, the melt will always proc twice So both of her hits on her charge attack would be melt damage, which is 150% if you use cryo as the trigger. So now let's go test that. Alright, Ganyu damage by itself. And it should be around 18k crit. 18k crit. Alright, now apply strong aura. And use the weak cryo trigger. 37k is melt damage, so it'll apply melt twice. Now if I do a weak pyro aura and then trigger with weak cryo, 37k, so it still procs melt. Now why is all this important? Because of Diluc and Ganyu. Because Xingqiu or Barbara, auto or E applies Hydro aura, and because Diluc's E applies weak pyro trigger. Also when Diluc ults, after his ult, his auto attack also becomes pyro, and those are also weak pyro hits. Therefore, to maximize Diluc's damage, it's better to use Xingqiu or Barbara as the support aura to apply Hydro, so that Diluc could do vaporize damage for every single one of his auto attack hits and his E. So I'll do a short demonstration. Alright, let me see what's Diluc's damage without the auras. Okay, 35, 37, 35, 37, 38. Okay, now let's do the testing. So because my Diluc's under level and I don't want to die, I'll try to stun it first. Okay. So Diluc, oh. Xingqiu use Q. 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. Get it? So now if you see that every attack after Diluc's ultimate, his auto and E does all vaporize damage. So that's 150%. So that would be a good replacement for your cryo auras. So in conclusion, for Diluc, if you do not have his ult, that means Chi-Chi or Xingqiu, who applies cryo, and you could use his E to apply melt damage, that would be better. But if he have his ult, it would be better for him to have a Hydro aura so that he could apply constant vaporize damage after his ultimate. So the other one is Ganyu. Well, for Ganyu it just works by itself because of she applies weak cryo damage. So therefore any pyro aura, she would always proc melt twice with her charge attack. Now if you have a strong pyro aura such as Shangling, where I believe her ult is weak pyro, but even if it's weak pyro, because Ganyu is ice, that means her ultimate also applies weak ice. So her ultimate will always proc 2 melt per one of Shangling's the pyronado circles because of how the mechanics work. Now this also applies to all the new characters such as Hu Tao that's coming. Since they're not out yet, I don't know is their skills apply weak or strong element. So we could do further testing. But this thing works for everything, so including Sucrose, because Swirl is also a elemental reaction, and I believe Sucrose E is actually weak amino. So we could try this. Okay. One Swirl. Her cooldown for E is actually not that great. Alright, that's 1 Swirl and 2 Swirl. There we go. Okay everyone, that would be it for the video. If you find this thing helpful, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much.